Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 17, Episode 12. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. This episode might be dropping a little bit later than usual, but I think it's worth the wait because we got plenty of news about the Pittsburgh Steelers from Mike McCarthy Monday morning as the team returned to practice ahead of their preseason finale Thursday against the Buffalo Bills. So, Dave, how you doing?
All right. Happy Monday to you. Is our long national nightmare concerning the your dress up, your attire now over with?
I was amused that you guys talked about it and opened the show that way, you and Ross, and appreciate Ross filling in. I hate missing the immediate podcast after a game, but I had to run around Saturday, have a wedding. Just as a man, and you can identify with this, Dave, who does not dress up. Our attire is a t-shirt and shorts most of the time. Dressing up is not in my vocabulary, and so I needed some assistance, and I think I'm good to go.
All right. Glad the women of Steelers Depot could hopefully get you right. And once again, like to thank, as you mentioned, Ross McCorkle for sitting in on that Saturday morning show there. So I know you've had a lot of time to look at the All-22 and go over the tape from the game against the Jets the other night. We'll get to that later in the day, or later in this show. And the reason that we're a little bit behind this morning is the fact that Mike McCarthy met the media this morning, and I think overall we got a lot of positive things to talk about here when it comes to the health of the team. And I know we got a transaction to go over with at some point during this show. We'll go over the Browns, who they look like they're going to announce be their starting quarterback. It's no secret at this point, if you're paying attention on Twitter, I guess, that it's going to be Deshaun Watson, but we'll hold our thoughts on that till later in the show. So shall we start with things Mike McCarthy had to say on Monday?
Just one note before that, Dave and I will bring back our live stream tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time, out of training camp. So finally have a Monday to really take time to do that. So looking forward to speak with you guys again. Just search my name on YouTube, again, 7 p.m. Eastern time for an hour. But as you said, Dave, a lot on the Steelers injury front and plenty of it positive, which is exactly what you want to hear come late in August. So big news, Jalen Ramsey has been or will be activated off of PUP today. He was seen in pads practicing, so I assume he's officially off of active PUP after missing the entire training camp and start of the summer with a knee injury he initially suffered back in minicamp. So really positive there. Additionally, positive news on offensive tackle Max Iheanachor. He will practice today per Mike McCarthy, and McCarthy leaving open the possibility of Iheanachor playing in the preseason finale against Buffalo after missing the first two games. DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr. also in pads after missing a week and a half, 2 weeks or so with some minor injuries. Don't know for sure if they practiced in full and if they have a chance to play on Thursday. I imagine Pittsburgh will still be pretty cautious regarding those two, but overall Pittsburgh moving in the right direction health-wise.
Yeah, good positive updates there overall, and we'll keep our fingers crossed to see if Max Iheanachor can get in pads and make his debut on Thursday night against the Bills. And for those that missed, that game will be aired for the out of market people on NFL Network. So look forward to seeing that, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that Max can do enough between now and Thursday night. As far as Jalen Ramsey goes, with him coming off PUP, now I know you noted throughout a good portion of training camp that he seemed to be ramping up and running and doing all the things, getting closer and all like that. It will be interesting to see if he gets any burn whatsoever in the game against the Bills. I don't know if we'll actually get an answer from Mike McCarthy on that before Thursday night. I know what McCarthy's scheduled I think talk to the media again on Tuesday. I think Wednesday is an off day for the team, and then obviously the game is Thursday night. So I'm more excited more than anything the fact that, because I started to wonder, man, if Max Iheanachor is not healthy enough to practice and play in this preseason game, in this finale here, could we be potentially looking at him maybe not being healthy enough to start the season? And then thoughts run through your head of, could that be a guy that goes to IR or something? But at least he's trending in the right direction. And with, I think we had saw before the game the other night that Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf appeared to be running around, moving fine and all like that. The fact that both those guys are at least back in pads, we'll see if there's any reports of the level of practice that they have on Monday, but that's trending in the right direction, obviously there. So now that leaves Joey Porter Jr. And Dante Kitt as the two remaining players on the active PUP list. It doesn't look like there's going to be any change to that, at least prior to Thursday night. And I think Mike McCarthy did have something to say a little bit about Joey Porter Jr., right?
Yeah, unfortunately, one place where there isn't any movement is regarding Joey Porter Jr. and his contractual situation. I'll read partially the quote here, and it's a pretty important thing that McCarthy admitted. He says, quote, "I would love the opportunity to coach Joey Porter. I know our defensive guys would love the opportunity, so we're at an impasse right now here, and you got to respect that. Every one of us has a contract, the organization, they have beliefs and so forth, but yeah, that's just kind of where we are." And that comes courtesy of ESPN's Brooke Pryor. So using the word impasse to describe the situation between Pittsburgh and Porter.
Yeah. Here we are a little less than 3 weeks now. 2 weeks and 6 days, I guess, from the opener. And doesn't seem like there's any movement at all with the term being impasse at this situation. So, Ross and I talked about it a little bit the other day. You and I think, have been talking all along here. I, in my heart of hearts, I still want to think that something's going to get done here, but using the term impasse from the head coach doesn't give you any sense that the two sides are close. And as much as there's been probably negotiations going on for probably a better part of the off season here. It does kind of make you wonder if a deal will get done. And if a deal does not get done by week 1, we know the Steelers' stance on not negotiating contracts once the first game arrives. What does this mean for Joey Porter Jr.? Is he going to be willing to play under his base salary for 2026? Is he going to be willing to sit out X amount of games and then look to maybe play later on in the season so he can get his credited season there? I mean, we're going to have to wait and see, but I'm surprised Mike McCarthy throughout the term impasse there, because normally coaches kind of stay away from that kind of stuff. But it doesn't. You don't get the sense that the two sides are close at all.
Right. And I think the other question is, no matter if a deal gets done or not, and I think you hope it gets done, but it's a lot of time missed. And the secondary just has not banked together too many reps as a group. And could that produce a cold start to a season where Pittsburgh really can't afford a cold start? Now, it's good Ramsey's getting back today, and I hope to hear we get some information on nickel use versus safety use and what that distribution of snaps looks like. And I'd love for him to play in the finale to chart that out a little bit. I kind of doubt he's going to play in the finale, but we will see. So I just worry about a lot of missed time for the secondary, key pieces in there, and how that group might gel once the season gets going.
Yeah, and I don't think we got any word, at least pre-practice, at least I haven't seen it yet, on Brandon Echols either, because that's another one that's missed, obviously,
And
a lot
Brisker.
of time. And Brisker, and I think he did say that even though, and it was good to see Deshaun Elliott back in a uniform against the Jets the other night there. It seems like McCarthy said he might be held out, I guess, today because he's a little bit sore, probably as to be imagined when it comes to that. So that's another thing yet to watch. How much of this quote unquote starting secondary will we get to see on the field in the finale? Against the Bills. And if you don't see much more than what we've seen so far, you are going to have a lot of questions about the continuity, as you mentioned, even if Porter, signs and is able to play in week one, and if Ramsey doesn't get on the field in the first preseason game, at the very least he is back at practice. So that's the biggest thing that we were worried about there. But there will be a lot of questions that'll need to be answered. And look, you might have Eccles not make this finale as well too. The good news, I guess, overall is you still got 2 weeks and 6 days until you have to play the Atlanta Falcons, and a lot can obviously still happen in that amount of time.
Right, and although every NFL game is a challenge, you're not facing the Bengals week one. The Falcons passing game is not going to be the threat that other challenges will pose later throughout the season. But still, miscommunication is miscommunication. A coverage bust, leaving a receiver wide open. You're going to pay the price for that. We saw that early last year against Seattle and the Jets, and can't have a repeat of that. And so, at its core, kind of just on its face, McCarthy and saying, we want our coaches to be able to coach these guys. And they've just not gotten to do much of that throughout the summer so far. Pittsburgh starting to work towards that, but that'll be something to watch for once the year begins. Is there a price to pay, a consequence to just missing those reps?
Does the term impasse with Joey Porter Jr. Give any sort of continued speculation about the possibility of him being traded here in the next 2.5 weeks?
No, I'll have to hear something. I'd have to hear something about teams actually calling Porter or
Right.
Pittsburgh shopping Porter. And just to reiterate that Jordan Schultz's report never implicated either thing. It was just teams wondering from the sidelines, would Pittsburgh consider trading him? Now, could that eventually lead to teams taking action in calling? It could, but until there's reporting that indicates that, I will assume that's not going to happen. Of course, he's still on active PUP right now, so I don't think you can trade a player on active PUP if my understanding of the rules is correct. Now, of course, they could just activate him in a trade, and they could probably make that happen, but those, to me, are still too many steps down the road.
All right, and we forgot to even mention Dalen Everett. What is the status of him heading into this week's practice? Will we get to see him back on the field as well here? So, yeah, a lot of questions concerning the secondary, and at least we got one of them answered with the return of Jalen Ramsey from the PUP list.
Really hoping Iheanachor can go in this game.
Mhm.
You got 2 padded practices, which is especially good because if you're working lighter sessions, not in pads, then Iheanachor is not going to get quite as much out of that. It's going to be harder to evaluate his readiness. And so the fact that McCarthy confirmed this will be in pads for today and tomorrow, I think gives Iheanachor a real chance. If he is just in a football conditioned shape to go out there and play 30 snaps and just feels like he understands enough to not put himself in harm's way, and by extension, the offense in harm's way, you got to play him and go find out a little bit about this guy.
Yeah, and I get it'd be nice to learn a little bit more about Jennings Dunker, who I don't think, and we'll have to see what the transcript and all says. We'll see if he practices, see if he's able to get back on the field as well too. So yeah, boy, if you're when it comes to draft picks, your first round draft pick has yet to play in a preseason game. I think time is all but pretty much run out on him being able to be the week one starting right tackle for this team. I don't, with that said, it's probably not impossible, but the door certainly seems to be closing, and especially if he's not able to get out there and play against the Bills on Thursday night. But yeah, you just want him healthy and ready to go, at least where he can get a helmet potentially for week one.
Hypothetically, if Iheanachor plays 30 snaps against Buffalo and plays well, is that door to start completely shut? It's not like Dylan Cooks had this standout summer. I think it's been just an average summer, and Broderick Jones, while it's been great, he's been getting a ton of reps and been healthy enough to participate every step of the way, does not look like starter material either. So could that door still be open if we're sitting there Friday morning, Dave, saying, man, Iheanachor played a whale of a game?
Well, look, I've learned over the years to not talk in absolutes when it comes to this kind of stuff, but he has missed a lot of time, and he is a rookie, and the tag on him coming out was very raw. I would like to think that it would. I mean, he'd have to look. He would really have to look good, and you'd have to have a lot of confidence. Yeah, there's just so much that goes into the missed practices that I don't know that you're going to get full-fledged answers just out of one solid tape showing in a preseason game of, let's say, 40 snaps. So
Sure.
I'm not going to completely rule out the possibility, but if that door is ajar, it's going to take a lot to make it anything more than that, I would think.
Yeah, he's going to have to kick down that door to
Mm.
do it. And it's possible if Cook had a better summer, I would say that door is completely closed and locked. I think it's just shut right now. And if Iheanachor has a great showing and, to use the analogy again, kicks down that door, then a chance. I would call it unlikely for Iheanachor to start week one. But let's get him in a game against Buffalo, hopefully, and have at least a chance to find out something about him so we can assess that situation a little bit more clearer.
At the very least, and look at this, we don't know if this team's going to keep 8, 9, or 10 offensive linemen. It feels like 9's going to be the number, and let's say 9 is the number. More than likely, one of those guys is going to be inactive. So at the very least, you hope he does enough and is healthy enough that he could get a helmet in week one and not be the, let's say, lone inactive offensive lineman.
Yeah, it sounds like Dunker's probably going to be inactive because if he was in pads today, I imagine somebody would have been tweeting about that. So I'm going to guess he is not in pads today, probably won't play in the finale, and it's probably going to be, if they keep 9, you're lone inactive up front.
Probably.
Dave, had some roster news come out on Sunday, and for all of those who bought the Laith Marjan jerseys, I apologize. He was unfortunately waived by the team. He missed a 44-yard field goal wide left against the Jets that kept Pittsburgh with a goose egg on the score. He went 3 for 3 on his extra points in the opener against Green Bay. Of course, had no chance to beat out Chris Boswell, but it was a pretty lackluster summer in the few chances Laith Marjan got.
Yeah, this turned out just the way everybody expected it to, and $5,000 in dead money for him against the cap this year, and another 10,000 next year in 2027. Let's see, we got the Steelers are signing running back Alex Texa and cornerback Jalen Jubo. They have released defensive back Israel Mukwamu. It'd be interesting to see if Mukwamu is released with some sort of injury stipulation there. And Jalen Ramsey has officially been activated off the physical PUP, or off the active physical off the active PUP list. Let me get that out correctly. So that they have filled the spot now by Texa, and then also had the other position open up with the releasing of Israel Mukwamu.
And just for the roster math, because they released Marjan yesterday, they had an open spot. And so Mukwamu out creates a second open spot, and then the 2 signings today. So they're now full for this game. Yeah, Teska was Eli Heidenreich's teammate in high school at Mount Lebanon, and at Navy. Josh Carney's going crazy in the group chat right now because he's been all over that for a long time. Teska tried out for Pittsburgh in rookie minicamp, did not sign, so he'll add some depth there. He was called a fullback at Navy, that option offense. He's really more of a running back, and that's how he's characterized as such in Pittsburgh right now. And yeah, Gulbo, he worked out for the team yesterday. He was one of 3 defensive backs who tried out, and so Pittsburgh getting some depth, probably assigned Dylan Everett, not a great candidate to return for the finale.
All right, that's probably a good bet there. And once again, I think the biggest thing here is Mukwamu, some sort of injury, because he obviously didn't dress and play and was banged up in that. He got banged up in the first preseason game, didn't he?
No, it was during he left the field during that Saturday 45-minute walkthrough,
okay.
where either he had an injury going into practice and aggravated it, or somehow got hurt in the lightest practice you'll ever see. It was a right lower leg, right above the ankle, like a bone bruise kind of thing, and so he did not play in the preseason game against the Jets. But yeah, his time in Pittsburgh is over.
All right.
All right, Dave, where to from here? And I guess it really sounds like Chris Boswell will just be the lone kicker for the finale. So I don't think they're going to add a second kicker at this point, barring something last second. So Bos will handle the duties. Let's see. Mike McCarthy also speaking to reporters about a report that Jerry Dulac had on Friday before the Jets game. And then he wrote about it in a column, I believe, on Saturday, where he said the team had already decided they were going to keep Will Howard and Drew Aller. Of course, they were always going to keep Drew Aller. Will Howard is the notable name here. McCarthy refuting that and saying to reporters today he's not had any conversations about who will make the 53. Those things are ongoing and still fluid, and the team has not made any final decisions. Now, in fairness, I would not expect him to sit there and say, yes, Will Howard has made the team here on August 24th, 6 days before cutdowns, and Dulac maybe getting that information from higher up, or maybe Art Rooney is in his ear, kind of providing that information. So, McCarthy, that rebuttal is expected, but whatever it's worth, he's refuting the report.
All right. Would you expect him to come out and confirm a Dulac report like that?
Right, of course not. So I would not expect him to say that's factual. So we'll see. Well, it'll be, like I said, one of the most interesting roster decisions in quite some time. Pittsburgh with the 4-quarterback situation. And if they do go for, what position gets the short end? Because if you're keeping 4 and you're going heavy there, you have to go light somewhere else.
Yep, exactly.
And then I think, and I'm going to write about this too, if they keep 4, and you made the point, and I think it's a really good one, Dave. I think them keeping 4, if that happens initially, is the quote-unquote easy part. Keeping 4 for the entire season is the hard part. When injuries pile up and the roster gets squeezed even more, we've seen in recent years the few times teams have kept 4 quarterbacks, it's usually been for just a couple of weeks, and then somebody gets waived because they need help at another position because injuries start mounting. And so the idea is, yeah, you can keep 4 to start. Can you keep 4 for the entire season, though? That's I think, even more difficult matter.
Absolutely. It's tough to navigate a 53-man roster for an entire season. That's one of the main pushbacks I've had with this all along here. With the keeping of the 4 quarterbacks, but it's hard not to at this point. I was holding out hope that maybe we'd see another strong showing or a strong showing from Will Howard in this preseason game the other night. And my thought going into this initially was along the 3-quarterback line of, man, if Will Howard can't give you enough confidence that he can be the number 2 and be better than a guy, say, like Mason Rudolph, after the training camp and preseason ends, then maybe that's a sign that maybe you do need to move on from the second year player there. But the further that you get into this right now, I don't know how you can't think that this is indeed trending towards the team keeping 4 quarterbacks at this point. I don't think, and we'll get into this a little bit. I don't think Will Howard did anything in this preseason game against the Jets that warrants. That we've seen enough of him. He played himself right off the roster. Now he certainly didn't help himself overall in that game either. There, but. I think as we sit right now, if you're betting on it, I think you have to. I think the smart money would be on the team keeping 4 quarterbacks. As much as I don't like them going down that road because of how taxing it can be on roster management, it does feel like it's trending that way.
Yeah, it does. I'm not sure what could happen in this finale. And McCarthy had teased pregame before playing the Jets that his plan for the finale against Buffalo would be the same as the Jets game, meaning that Howard and Aller were the only 2 quarterbacks that would play. I think the takeaway from the game against New York is Mason Rudolph's spot as the number 2 seems pretty much secure. I don't think, even though you probably can't put a ton of blame on Howard for the interceptions. It seems like Rowan Wilson's going to take the brunt of that. Howard would have had to play really lights out for this team to feel like he was going to be the number 2 and 1 snap away from holding the team's season in his hands, if only for a game or two, should Rodgers get hurt. And so Rudolph seems likely to make it. Allen's going to make it. Rodgers, of course, is going to make it. And just for a team that wants to develop young quarterbacks and hired a head coach in part for that purpose, to go out and then start cutting those guys just seems counterintuitive.
Is this the part where we address the interceptions the other night, or is there anything else to mop up before we start getting into the All-22?
Yeah, I think we can dive on into the All-22, Dave. We've had plenty of time to comb it over and look through the tape. So after watching Will Howard's performance on a deeper level, what are your thoughts?
All right, let's start with, we didn't make that. I think the way Ross and I went down there is we talked about the offensive line first, and the mixing and matching, and kind of had the quarterback play kind of second fiddle in that. So let's start first and foremost with the quarterback play from the other night. Let's start specifically with Will Howard. You can't turn the football over, period. Especially when those interceptions aren't ones that can be put specifically off like a ball going off the receiver's hands and all like that. And I think it's very important to hyper focus on Mike McCarthy saying twice. I think once at halftime with Missy Matthews, and then during the post-game press conference as well too, when it came to those interceptions, and how, look, you could tell that he wasn't overly happy with what Roman Wilson did on both those two interceptions, as far as potentially drifting and not flattening out his routes on all that. But what did Mike McCarthy specifically say? You have a situation there where one mistake becomes two mistakes there. So it was a mistake on an execution issue on Roman Wilson, is the way I take it, on both of the routes there. But in the same breath there, Will Howard compounded that mistake by throwing to a guy that made a mistake, and when he probably shouldn't have, and tried to make a throw. And McCarthy referenced how Will Howard got away with it, so to speak, in the opener against the Packers there, but he didn't in two occasions here this time. So there, I don't know how people. I think people may be gauging some comments that I maybe made in that podcast the other day of exonerating Will Howard, and I think I said it clear as part of that you just can't turn the football over there, period. And so, yeah, there is a level to blame on there. Now, I don't know what degree you want to put on Roman Wilson versus Will Howard here, but I do think that it's important to go back to what Mike McCarthy said, not only once but twice. There is, you had one mistake become two mistakes. So what that means is both guys made mistakes that led to both of those interceptions there. And I think that needs to be how it's interpreted there. And the blame goes on both players.
Yeah, I was wrestling with how to interpret that comment of one mistake turns into two. I didn't know if he meant that as in your interpretation of Howard making a mistake and Wilson making a mistake, or they made the same mistake on the first rep, and they made the same mistake on the second rep, whoever that's targeted towards. I couldn't really decipher clearly who or what that was regarding.
I took it just as I said. On each play, it was one mistake turning into two mistakes.
Okay.
On each
I can
of the
see
play.
that. Yeah, I think I did a deep dive into the interceptions, and obviously you have Wilson, especially on that first one, drifting on the route. And if you drift on a route as a receiver, defensive backs at the NFL level are going to undercut and jump those routes. That's why you come back to the ball on curls, so the DB can't close that space. It's why you can't drift on your route on some of those crossing patterns. But I think especially on that first one, even if Wilson runs that route flat, that's still a hospital ball to a safety that's cutting that crosser, and it's going to at the very least pop Wilson and break up that pass. And so I didn't love the decision. I don't know if Howard saw the coverage clearly. The second one, maybe I just, you kind of look at Howard and say that's where he struggles to truly drive the ball or really make a high level throw with great velocity, the way that an Aaron Rodgers can, or Drew Aller at his best is capable of doing, where you feel like the arm limitations come into play a little bit for Howard, where he can't drive that ball and the DB can really close that space and make a play on it.
If Roman Wilson snaps out and flattens those routes out coming out of his break properly and all, both of those passes are going to still be, to me, low percentage chances of completions. Now, are both of them intercepted? Is one of them intercepted? It's hard to say, but it's to me, after watching it several times now at this point, I think you run into a situation where it would have been hard for either one of those balls completed. They might not have both been intercepted, but that's why I keep going back to, I think you have one mistake turning into 2 on both situations. I think there's a level to blame to put on both players there. It's obviously a learning situation, a coaching situation in both those. But the fact of the matter is the quarterback threw the ball to a player that was already, what we take is out of position there, and he's got to make a decision not to do that.
Mhm.
It's okay if would Aaron Rodgers make both those throws, or would he just throw the football into the damn ground if nobody's open, and then use it as his own coaching point to reprimand the wide receiver in a preseason game in that situation there? I mean,
Right.
you're obviously low red zone in one of them, the high just above the red zone in the other there. You expect to come away with some sort of points in especially in a preseason game to quote unquote get positives to come out of those drives. And Will Howard was the quarterback there, and he failed to do it. And he's the one that makes the decision to release the football. So there is blame for both of the quarterbacks there, plain and simple. And I think that's the coaching point that and the takeaway for both those interceptions.
Yeah, I think there's always layers and nuance to these conversations. It's not all on Howard. It's not all on Roman Wilson. How you want to divvy up percentages of blame can be debated, but there's blame to go around. But the point is, and you made it as well, those are high leverage money downs. You got third down, first one in the red zone, the second one, field goal fringe. You can't be turning the ball over there. Who's going to make a play? Those define games. Who makes plays in high leverage situations when you're in opposing territory, third down with points potentially on the line? Have 2 picks there is really frustrating as a coach.
Right. And this is a game that and look, how much different would have been if he would have had Pittman and Metcalf out there. I mean, we'll never know. You got to make do with the personnel that you have out there, and you can't turn the football over, period. And that's something that we talked about going into this game when it came to both of these quarterbacks, or going even into the preseason. Want to see them make smart decisions with the football, and most importantly, not turn the football over. And to yeah, now look, I don't know if there's anything left to mop up about the 2 interceptions there. I suppose we can talk about.
Well, I did have one question I wanted to ask you. I put it on Twitter yesterday. I don't want to spend much time on it, but I think it's a really interesting discussion that I think is just worth the opportunity for us to discuss. Off the first interception, Will Howard makes a touchdown saving tackle. It's a good tackle. He threw the interception, go clean up the mess. But should he what is the coaching point there? Should coaches be instructing their quarterback, just let him go, don't risk an injury? That's happened before. Baker Mayfield's Brown's career basically ended because of him making a tackle and hurting his shoulder off an interception. Case Keenum in college once tore his ACL, making a tackle off a turnover. So is the coaching point, especially in preseason, let the guy go or be a competitor, go make the tackle?
Oh, he endeared himself to his teammates. I'll tell you that. A guy that's not going to give up on play. I think it's hard to take in a competitive moment like that. I think after the point, you, I don't know. That's a slippery slope there, especially with a young guy trying to do, and what did Mike Tomlin always say? I'd rather say "whoa" than "sick 'em."
Yes,
Uh,
but if Will Howard had gotten hurt there, and I got nervous at first because the way
right,
that he looked down on the ground after throwing his shoulder into that, I couldn't tell if he was just pissed about the pick or if he was
right.
injured. If he was hurt there, the whole conversation today is going to be, why did he tackle? Let him go. If that's Aaron Rodgers, is the instruction the same? Let him go. Do you want Aaron Rodgers throwing a shoulder into a guy? Regular season, yes, make the tackle. I think that's my standpoint. Preseason, let him go. That's how I would coach it up.
Yeah, and look at, it's a totally different team. I know it's not our care, but look what Fernando Mendoza did in that pick six the other day. He was going all out, making a dive in, trying to prevent that pick six. Whereas, how many people would have said anything had he, half-assed it and went to the sideline and took his lumps just because of the pick six and that. I I don't know how to answer that question correctly
Yeah,
because
there's no right or wrong answer. It's an
I
opinion.
I understand. I think after the fact, you breathe a sigh of relief that he did not get injured, and maybe you say next time, just run after him, but don't go 110%.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no right or wrong answer, and I can appreciate being a competitor and making a play. And your
How
instinct
about
is
this? Don't throw the interception so you don't
yeah,
put
I know.
yourself in a position where you have to go chase down a guy like that.
It sounds good on a bumper sticker, but it's going to happen sometimes. So, what is the coaching point? And again, no right or wrong answer. I would love to have that question be posed to Angelico or McCarthy. What if that's even discussed? In meetings before games, if there's a coaching point or not. The instinct is, of course, to go make the play, go make the tackle, be a competitor. But I'm just saying, if Will Howard had gotten hurt there, if that's Aaron Rodgers, if it's Drew Aller, and they separate their shoulder, making a tackle in a preseason game, the whole conversation today is going to be about should have made the tackle, let him go. Who cares? It's preseason. Don't get hurt. It's not worth it. I'm just saying where the conversation would have gone, and I'm getting ahead of it by having the conversation now.
All right. All right.
All right, Dave. What did you think of Howard's performance aside from the interceptions? Not to do the whole "How was the play, Mrs. Lincoln" comment that you like to make,
Right.
but putting those moments aside, how was the rest of his game?
Yeah, look, I think we talked to if he were to throw an interception in the game, how does he rebound against it? And after the first one, I thought he what was he 4 for 4 or 5 for 5 after that. I thought he made some good throws. Look, I thought one of his best plays of the game was sidestepping in the pocket and then stepping up and hitting Ben Skoranek on the crosser in the middle of the field.
Mhm.
I think that was his single best drop back and pass of the entire game there. He had hit Roman Wilson, I think, over the middle. I think overall his command of the huddle and his command of the offense and the checks and the amount that he played under center and his play action fakes, I thought there was a lot of positives to take away from what his overall play was. It's unfortunate though that you obviously, and look, he didn't have a chance to come back after the second interception, right? Because they didn't get the ball back there. So we had 4 possessions. Uh, I think another thing that you look at there is the first sack of the game when Broderick gets beat there. Could he have stepped up and hit a wide open Muth running down the middle of the field? Yeah, I think that might be a coaching point there. I asked Ross this question. I felt maybe C minus. I wanted to try to give him a C minus. Ross says that's a little bit strong, probably a D plus there. So I'm fine with that because you have to put a lot of emphasis on him turning the football over. If you can't cherry pick this and say, yeah, but look at how he did minus the 2 interceptions. But if you were to do that, I thought it was fairly competent and some positives to be pulled out of there though. So it wasn't all awful. I think the potential step up on the sack. I mean, we could be talking about that potentially being a touchdown if he's able to do that and get that ball to Freiermuth running down the middle of the field there. And then if he didn't have the interceptions and they let's say they stall and they get field goals or at least field goal attempts out of both those, I think you may be looking at this in a totally different light here. So it wasn't all bad. It certainly wasn't anywhere close to his performance in the opener against the Packers. I don't think it was enough to sit here and say, just go ahead and cut him now. I don't think it impacts your entire decision as to I think the big takeaway here is no, he's probably not the better second quarterback option than Mason Rudolph at this point here. I do think I would be interested in watching both Howard and Aller do the play the entire game in the finale there. I'm not so sure at this point though. Right now, you can't at least give Drew Aller the opportunity to start the game and just flip them and let Will Howard come in there and play with the C team at that point, just to give Drew Aller some higher quality, I guess, personnel type snaps there. But I thought Howard, outside of those 2 interceptions as a whole, played okay.
I think the positives were he got those second and third reads more often. The throw to Roman Wilson over the middle was a really good example of that. I thought he read things well. I think that was good. I think the bounce back he initially showed after the first pick was positive. As you said, it's always big. That short-term memory, can you flush it? Can you go out there and just start making plays the next drive? And I thought he was doing that. Of course, it ends in a second interception and some debate about how much blame there is to go around, but there certainly was no meltdown from Howard where he just completely falls apart right after the interception and is clearly still rattled by that moment. And so that was a positive. There were some really good moments of pocket presence. As you said, the third down dig to Skoranek was a great example of that. Great job to slide to his right, feeling the nickel pressure, and then climbing the pocket and making a strong throw to Skoranek. I think the negatives were the pocket presence was still a little up and down. There was some good, but that first sack he took, I know people are killing Broderick Jones for it, and it was not a particularly good rep from Jones, but I put that on Howard a lot more than I put that on Broderick Jones. You can't take a 5-step drop and get almost 10 yards deep in the pocket and expect your tackle to have any chance to block a first-round pick in David Bailey. And so Howard's got to climb there and step up and hitch up there. He didn't. I don't know if that's how they're coaching it because Allard did the same later in the game. They're getting so deep in the pocket. It just, there's a junction point there that those tackles can't, eventually the edge guy just goes around you as opposed to having to go through you, and you can't protect that way. So Howard's got to climb there. I still think he's got to probably feel that out a little bit better. And of course, the 2 picks are the 2 picks. So I thought it was just an okay performance, some good, some bad. Just still have not seen him truly drive the football. In the second interception, I think it's indicative of that. Even that fade ball he threw to Jeremy Bernard just felt like a bit of a duck. It just hung in the air too long and was wobbly, and the DB knocked it away. And so even that throw, it didn't really. You're not seeing Howard really amp up the RPMs on those throws and driving the football well on a line the way that Rodgers can or Allard can, even the way that Rudolph can, and that's a concern.
Could he have put a little bit more mustard on that one to Skoranek over to the left side that ended up him not getting both of his feet down in that situation? Could he have helped his receiver out a little bit more in that situation?
I'm sure there is some coaching point about a slightly better ball, but Skoranek could get both feet down there. I think it was a good throw going to his left for a right-handed quarterback. He got his hip square. I mean, that's a pretty good ball. That's a play I think Skoranek has to make.
All right. All right, Drew Aller. Let's go ahead and talk about him real quick in the night that he had. You look at the personnel that he had to deal with overall, not great. I don't know how many drops people want to classify. He didn't get a lot of help with his receivers. You had a couple of plays that looked like we had receivers in the same spots, which makes you feel like there wasn't proper execution on a couple of those. Obviously, I think the bright point of what Drew Aller did was the extended play and out of structure, and you had the tight end Lake McCree breaking off his route and kind of with not his feet up underneath him. Aller showing that he does have the arm strength to put it down there and make something out of nothing. I think that was obviously the highlight. Thought he made some other good throws in the game. There was the one, maybe if he gets the ball out a little bit quicker on that one over to the right side that Jordan Clark the Clark skid broke up over there. The ball was outside there, and it took a great play to break it up. But if he gets rid of that ball a little bit quicker, maybe you have a better chance of completing that. But he was under duress a lot most of the night there. I think the high point there is and I think you said it as well, too. There was an instance, at least one, where he probably could have read and moved up into the pocket instead of bailed there. Obviously, he did not turn the football over or put the football really seemingly in harm's way. That was a plus there. But it was kind of hard to read, kind of more of an incomplete because of the personnel and situation. He was in a lot of second and 20 or first and 20 type situations because of the penalties. So it's hard to get some rhythm there when you're that far behind a change. It felt a lot of clunky situations that led to not getting a solid read on him overall.
Yeah, I think that's a lot more difficult to judge Allar's performance than Howard just based on the lack of help he was getting, the drops at the end of the game. I don't know how Jaheim Bell is not called for a drop per PFF on that seam ball. I mean, it hits his hands and he double catches it and then the ball gets knocked out. That's a clear drop, clear as day to me. Joaquin Davis with a drop, Lance Mason, maybe that's not as clear a drop, but a ball that he's got to be able to to haul in the offensive line. I think the starters, I'll mention this in a moment. I think the starters were better than people think. The backups were pretty rough, though, and didn't give Aller too much of a chance. The big play is, as you said, that 38-yarder to McCree. It's a great job sliding to his left, and I just wanted to see Aller make a big-time throw. I know he's capable of doing that, but it's just good to see it at the NFL level, and that was a big-time throw. Nice catch by McCree, too, but that is, Drew Aller at his best there, all the physical tools coming together. Just a little more of the inaccuracy in this game. That third or fourth down to Levi Wentz far hash throw was high and incomplete. I think he missed another one similar later in the game. There was a check down to Eli Heidenreich where his footwork was just a complete mess. Kind of went back into bad habits there, like just awful footwork. His back foot sliding back, and he dirts the ball 5 yards in front of him to Heidenreich. So I just felt he was a little more frenetic in this game. Probably understandable given the O-line not helping him out too much. There was some good, but as you said, just a little hard to get a read on because the other 10 guys weren't serving him as well as you would like.
Look, I think the gigantic takeaway here coming out of both these quarterbacks after 2 preseason games do you have a warm, fuzzy feeling that either one of those should be the primary backup to Aaron Rodgers right now? And I think the short answer is no right now. Now, look, as I mentioned, do I think if this team gets in a situation where Aaron Rodgers misses a large chunk of games, do I think Mason Rudolph can be that guy to tread more than 500 during that time? Personally, no, but he is the best option as the backup, all things being equal right now. So then the question becomes, are you going to learn enough about Howard and or Aller? Look, Aller's making the team. We all know that. Rodgers is making the team there. You're going to learn enough about Will Howard in practice in these next 2 days and in the preseason finale here to make you say, you know what? We can move forward with Will Howard as the backup to Aaron Rodgers, and with complete confidence that we can still continue to compete as an offense should Aaron Rodgers miss any time. So this all parlays itself into do you keep 3? Do you keep 4? And if you do keep 3, you would have to think Will Howard would be the odd man out. If you keep 4, well, obviously you keep all 4.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation. So we'll hear McCarthy's plan for the Buffalo game probably tomorrow. I imagine that's the last time he speaks to reporters before the game. So maybe we'll get a better vision for the plan. But as he teased to Missy Matthews before the Jets game, it could be Howard and Aller playing who would start. Have no problem with Aller getting a nod in this one and just trying a different combination, especially the lack of help that Aller got last game. Maybe give him a better unit to work with, but we'll see what McCarthy decides.
All right.
Let's go to the offensive line.
All
I
right.
did the video today. It's a hot take maybe from me. I think some certainly will disagree. And I felt it live, the offensive line, the starters, it felt like they didn't do well. But when I watched the All-22, I think the first 2 snaps were pretty poor run blocking. I think from there on out there, it was pretty good. It wasn't great, but better than people think. It was not quite as dire. Oh my God, this unit is really struggling. The backups were pretty poor. No debate about that. But the starting 5 of Fautanu, Cormack, Frazier, Anderson, Cook, I thought did a pretty good job.
Look, I think I told Ross the other day. I thought the first unit was better than they were in the first preseason game. So is there room for improvement with those 5 that were out there? Yes, but it was noticeably better 1-to-1 when it comes to performances in that first preseason game to the second one. Where there was probably 1 or 2 plays where you could have probably had some explosive runs in the running game there. It was nice to see both Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle be part of that. And look, I thought overall they had some positive plays overall. Yeah, my initial takeaway, especially after watching the All-22, is it was better.
Yeah, they had some good movement on zone tracks. They had 1 gap run that was really blocked up well. They got Warren one-on-one with the cornerback, and the corner made a good play, and Warren couldn't make the guy miss, but that's the matchup that you want, a running back on a corner, one-on-one. on the edge. I thought the pass protection was overall good in terms of the identification. I thought was strong. The pickup I thought was pretty good too. I thought Fautanu did a good job in pass pro. I thought Anderson did a nice job. Frazier, Cook did. I thought okay. It wasn't amazing, but I thought it was okay. So yeah, the starting five, it was I thought passable.
Yeah, from that point forward, though, it was yeah. Driscoll not great. I mean, go down the line there. Overall, I thought Brock Hoffman played okay overall.
Mm-hmm. And I will say the Driscoll sack. Like Driscoll's not played well this year.
Right.
Really watch out if he's got to play for this team. But that's another one where Aller got so much depth. He's 10 yards, literally 10 yards deep in the pocket, and it's one of those things where what do you want your tackle to do when your quarterback is dropping that deep? I don't know how you want to be able to pass protect there.
And then you had a couple of penalties on that unit as well too, which obviously didn't help things out. On top of it there, so I think the main crux, and obviously we haven't seen Iheanachor play yet, but I thought the starting five that they rolled out represented himself well overall, and obviously much better than I thought Fautanu played well.
He had a missed run block early on, but that was to me the only negative there. Roderick Jones, how would you evaluate his play after watching it back?
Up and down. I mean, there was, I guess some positive within there, but he's not where I'm giving him the right tackle spot to open week 1. I'll tell you that.
It's still frustrating. He plays with his hands so low. He misses so often with his punch. It just has been a recurring issue, and it feels like nobody can really fix it. They've gone through different O-line coaches this year, well-regarded one in James Campen, and that's the big issue I think with Broderick Jones, just a really inconsistent and wide punch. I will say, what are your thoughts on him giving up that sack to, who was it, Nate Lynn? Am I getting the name right here? The Jets, just signed a couple days ago before that game.
The powerhouse, the renowned guy out of William and Mary.
Yeah, it's where Mike Tomlin went and Sean McDermott went. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that play?
I thought he stopped moving his feet first and foremost, and he got spin right to the inside. I mean, he got beat. He got beat. Period.
Yeah, he did, and that was my first thought. And Jones got beat. That's the bottom line. He gave up the sack. It's a bad rep. Here's the one area where I could give him a little bit of grace. It's tough when you're facing a guy where you probably don't know much about Nate Lynn. You're not game planning too much. You're not studying Jets tape as intently. He had just signed to the Jets. What day did he sign? What was this? August 18th. So literally maybe 3 days before the game. When you're facing a guy and you don't know what's in his bag in terms of what his pass rush moves are, like you don't know what he's going to be bringing. And I'm sure Broderick Jones does not know if he had an inside spin move in his bag. And so when you get hit with that, it's harder to, like if you're facing Alex Highsmith and you're preparing for the game, on third down, money down, he's going to use that inside spin. When you're facing some unknown guy in the preseason, it's tougher to know what his go-to moves are and what to be ready for. And so that does make it tougher. But bottom line is you get beat for the sack. And that's a negative rep for Broderick Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even close either. I mean, he and it feels like he didn't move his feet enough and all.
Yeah, but I just how much do you think Broderick Jones knew about Nate Lynn?
Probably not much. No.
Right, and of course it may be a little bit likewise. Nate Lynn, how much does he know about Broderick Jones? But Jones is a veteran, and it's always tougher for the guy going backwards, the lineman, than it is the guy going forward and the guy reacting to the move in Jones as opposed to the guy presenting the move with Nate Lynn. So I want to maybe give Jones a little bit of grace there, but I'm so frustrated by his play. This guy could, is not going to start this year. Maybe a swing role, but he's not going to beat out Dylan Cook.
All right, it feels like left to right. It's Fautanu, Mason McCormick, Zach Frazier, Spencer Anderson, and Dylan Cook week 1, right?
Yeah, like I said, if Iheanachor kicks that door down, if he's able to suit up for this game, then maybe that conversation becomes more interesting, but it's probably going to be those 5 for week 1. Should mention, by the way, it looks like Jennings Dunker did dress today. I just saw a clip of that. And so I can't guarantee what level of participation he had, but that's certainly a positive sign for him too.
Sure is. That means that hopefully he'll both him and Iheanachor have a chance to play against the Bills Thursday night. And if indeed that's the case, then you would think that barring them getting injured more or injuring another part there, they are going to avoid IR to start the season there. So then the question becomes: are you going to keep 9? Are you going to keep 8? Odds are the numbers are going to be 9. It's hard if you're going to keep 4 quarterbacks. It sure seems hard to keep 10 offensive linemen. It feels like Brock Hoffman's done what you would expect out of him to make this team right. We already named off the starting 5, unless you just completely part ways with Broderick Jones. You feel like he's going to be on the roster there. That's a long way of saying it feels like Ryan McCollum probably going to be the odd man out here overall. That you're going to keep Dunker, obviously Iheanachor, Broderick Jones. That's 8, and then Hoffman, I think, makes 9.
Right. Now, Hoffman did not play center in this game, for whatever it's worth. I think it was just McCollum as the number 2 until Crippen came in very late in the game. So, want to still see if Hoffman gets some center reps, but my belief is McCollum will be odd man out.
Is there a chance that McCollum's done enough that maybe you could warrant trading him to one of these teams that have lost a center right now? Is that completely out of the question? Maybe they're trying to showcase him a little bit, because there's a lot of tape on Brock. Mike McCarthy knows Brock Hoffman and his play at center, as do the coaching staff and all like that. And obviously, you hope you don't get in a situation where Brock Hoffman's having to come in there to replace Zach Frazier. I mean, you got to be ready for such things. But I think 1-for-1, Hoffman's a better center choice as a backup than Ryan McCollum is, and they did kind of try to showcase too the versatility of McCollum this preseason. I don't think McCollum's going to make this roster, but I do think there's an outside chance that maybe they find a team, take them off their hands for like a 6th or a 7th round draft pick, or one of those pick swaps or whatnot.
I won't rule that out. I don't think they're showcasing McCollum. They just needed guys who could play. They had, I think, 11 healthy linemen going into that game. And once your starters come out, you're down to 7 or 8. And so you only have so many guys. You can play only, so many spots. If they wanted to showcase, they would have played McCollum more at guard, to sit there and say, hey, guys, he can play guard too, not just the center. That's kind of the knock on McCollum, center only type. I think it's just playing him because they have to get somebody out there. They want to vet in there that can help these young quarterbacks out. But yeah, there's a chance. I mean, I think I think he'll be subject to waivers still. So I did a study Sunday that talked about what positions are claimed the most. Offensive line, far and away the most claimed position of any group or any position in the NFL. So yeah, there could be some interest there.
All right, Roman Wilson. What are your concerns about Roman Wilson right now?
Obviously, him being the target on those 2 picks and the depth of his route is the focal point. But I think there are other issues in that game from Roman that aren't being talked about that I think should be discussed, to get lost in the 2 interceptions. This is a guy that needs to be much better post-catch. I look at the completion that Howard had to Wilson over the middle, sitting down against zone coverage. You got to turn that thing upfield and make that guy miss. And if he does, that's a potential house call, and he goes down pretty easily. There was I think 2nd and 3 little RPO slant that Wilson caught. He can't pick up the first down. Now, Bernard didn't throw a great block there, but Wilson's got to be able to just fight his way forward and move the chains. So I think they went to 3rd and short. They picked it up. But yeah, I think there's some things post-catch with Wilson's game that's relying on speed and kind of his explosiveness that I'm not seeing.
And then you throw in the fact that it doesn't seem like he can be overly trusted with some of his route duties on top. Let me repose the question. What do you think about Roman Wilson right now?
Yeah, it's been frustrating. And also, we should mention, and Angelico talked about it the day after the first interception, not running after the football. Even though he probably won't make that tackle, you never know. And so you got to hustle. So there's a lot of detailed little things there that are becoming kind of big things. So yeah, it's frustrating, and it's hard to sit there and say you're confident in this guy as your number 3.
Let's another, and I posed this to Ross, and I think it's a fair question to ask too. With us getting closer and closer to the final roster predictions, it's all nice and easy to put a 53-man roster together, but what does your inactive list look like on top of it? If this roster goes the way, at least where most of us feel like it's going to go overall, you still have to, and let's say nobody is elevated or even if someone is elevated for the first week game there, you're still going to have at least 5 inactive players. If you keep 4 quarterbacks, 2 of those inactives are going to be quarterbacks there. That still leaves 3 inactives remaining. If you carry 9 offensive linemen, good chance that 1 offensive lineman is going to be inactive there.
Mhm.
Odds are good that you're not going to dress all 6 wide receivers. We know that Ben Skoronek's going to get a helmet. We assuming they're not just totally discussing with Weegan, he's going to get a helmet there. Obviously, Michael Pittman Jr. and DK Metcalf are both going to get helmets. So who doesn't get the helmet between Jeremy Bernard and Roman Wilson?
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that once the roster is more settled. I understand your point that one of those guys could be inactive, but you could also, is Dalen Everett going to be active if he misses this next game? Is there a role for him? Even a Robert Spears Jennings who played well, could he be inactive? That's not a crazy thought to have. So it could go in different ways and health dependent on who's healthy and things like that. But I understand your point.
All right, let me be real blunt here. Are you looking for a better option? Should Omar Khan be looking at a potential cut or a potential trade for a veteran wide receiver to be the team's number 3 to help mitigate the continued and help with the continued development of Jeremy Bernard?
I mean, your pro personnel guys always look at what's out there, and there'll be a lot of receiver talent that gets cut and could be available, but it's just so tough this late in the process, get integrated into the offense and work with Aaron Rodgers. Bernard has made some plays in stadium. I'm probably not doing that unless there is something so obvious and such a clear opportunity that's worth jumping on. I'm probably not going to add a receiver right now.
All right. We haven't heard anything on Brandon Smith in a little while. Is perhaps Brandon Smith or Max Hurlman a potential better option for a roster spot than Roman Wilson?
Well, Brandon Smith, like you said, isn't healthy right now, and so that's kind of taking him out of the equation on that alone. Yeah, I think Hurlman is interesting, and I wrote about that in my latest roster prediction, potentially on Roman, but also is there any chance that Hurlman beats out Caden Weegan? If Weegan has some more struggles in this Buffalo game,
Oh
Hurlman,
boy.
I mean, he technically, I know it was against maybe lesser units, but he had a better kick return average and had a 14-yard punt return and had better numbers just from a box score standpoint than Weegan. I mean, the big thing with Weegan is just the ball security. Like that's the number one thing that'll get you cut and get you in the doghouse. Is if you have bad ball security, then that's the cardinal sin. And he showed that obviously in this game with a fumble that fortunately wasn't a turnover, became very close to a turnover, and then a bobble because he had bad posture. He looked down. He lost sight of the football. He looked down for a second, then he had to find it again, adjust, and bobbled that one. And that's the stuff that kills you as a returner.
All right. Do I think that Weegan's going to get cut? Do I think he should get cut after the first 2 preseason games? No. But I'll tell you what, if this fan base is going to go absolutely ballistic if he gets cut because of the sheer fact of them taking him where they took him, right? And I don't think that's going to happen. I could understand why a lot of people could question right now. I think you got to have faith of why you drafted him where you did draft him at this point, and at least start the season with him as your return guy. I'm not there. We'll see what happens in the finale, but I'm not there where I'm thinking, Weegan, his roster spot's not safe.
I'm not there either. My latest prediction had Weegan making it, but he's going to have to play well against Buffalo. He's going to have to show no ball security flubs at all in any respect, and hopefully make an impact return or two. He did have a good return, that 12-yarder, and as Danny Crossman pointed out, if Lance Mason can stick to his guy, that could be a touchdown for Weegan. That was a good play. We'd be feeling different about Weegan right now had that play hit its potential. So there was still some good there. And of course, he had the 74-yard catch and run in that first game. So there's certainly some positives. But I say all that to say Weegen better play well in the finale.
All right. Well, I mean, let's go back to the initial discussion here, though. I mean, Roman Wilson feels like he should be further along than he is at this point.
Sure, of course.
All right. And that's concerning.
Sure. No, and I go back to a conversation we had maybe a week or so ago where I said this receiver room, it's better than last year, but it is not that great. I called it a bottom third receiver room in the NFL, and I think that's becoming clearer and clearer.
Right. Okay, what else on offense before we turn our attention to the defense?
Tight end, not much. Just some of the drops there from Bell, from Mason. Tunyon, a nice catch, but pretty much status quo there. I think that's probably everything. Well, running backs. We should. How do I leave out running backs? Caleb Johnson. I thought he did get north-south, but just no juice, not breaking tackles, not making anyone miss. He's getting what's blocked. Like, it's the old adage of, if you need 3 yards, he'll get you 3 yards. If you need 5 yards, he'll get you 3 yards. I mean, that's kind of the feeling on Caleb Johnson, right? I'm glad he got more runway and got some playing time and have a chance to showcase himself. But yeah, I mean, you got that run to the right that he bounced. So it was a good read, but he can't make the guy miss. There was, I think, a draw where he gets lateral and can't make the guy miss. A screen pass where he's got some blockers in space. He's got one guy to make miss. He can't do that. He goes down pretty easily. He's a get what's blocked kind of guy.
Yeah, and I think I pointed out that run to the right. You sure would have wanted to. It felt like he should have had more yardage on that one to the right there, that he can break a tackle and get you a lot more yards there. Pass protection
for the running backs.
Yeah.
I thought the identification was good from Dowdle, from Heidenreich, from Homer. Nichols, I thought, had a good rep as well. I thought Heidenreich had one really good rep and one negative rep. So it was good.
All right. Side note, for those scoring at home, put this on Twitter yesterday, I believe. Travis Homer was once again the personal protector there. The only other one that got snaps at that position in the game against the Jets was Jack Henderson, the backup safety, and Henderson's not making this 53-man roster. So take that for what it is. And even though Danny Crossman came out and said the plan was to get Caleb Johnson some special teams work on the kickoff return team, we all know how that went there. And he got 0 snaps on special teams. So I don't care that he got 24 on offense. The fact that he got 0 and struggling to get special teams confidence is not great for Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, I understand the principle of he's getting a more offensive time, so he's going to play less on special teams, but you can't evaluate him if he didn't play snap on special teams. And although he was supposed to play on kick coverage team, as Crossman said, he didn't. He was not part of the starting unit. And so that kind of tells you right there. They did kick off to begin the game, and he was not part of it. Who was out there? Let me look at my notes here. Who was on the starting kickoff coverage team? There were a bunch of running backs that were, and Caleb Johnson was not one of them. So apologize if you hear all the papers shuffling. I got to find my notes here, but I know Homer was out there. It was Asante Samuel, Rayshon Jenkins, Jack Sawyer, Riley Nowakowski, Eli Heidenreich, Travis Homer, Carson Bruner, Cole Holcomb, Ben Skoranek, and Max Hurlman. And then, of course, your kicker, Leif Marjan. And so you had 2 running backs out there, neither of them Caleb Johnson.
All right, Alex, that's it for the running backs there. Let's go ahead and move this show along and talk about the defensive side of football.
Yeah, let's look defensive line. I know you had talked about with Ross your thought on Rubio. Maybe it's still a good performance, but not quite as strong as the debut against Green Bay. Was that your assessment from watching the All-22?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would probably agree. I mean, I think there were still some quality reps there. I thought he did a great job. There was one double team he took on, like, true forehand stuff with the center, I think, right guard on him. I think he handled that well. There was one, he got combo blocked off his feet. He got back on his feet and helped hold the point of attack. What I really liked about him and Y.A. Black was their hustle, their chase of the football. Those are big guys that can run, and they play with great effort. And there was the one, I think there was the Klubnik scramble that Black's chasing down. There was another one he was chasing down. There was one run on the perimeter where Daryl Porter missed the tackle, and Rubio makes the tackle 7 yards downfield or so. Just like the effort, the way those guys play is the way Steelers defensive linemen should play the game.
Yeah, I didn't think like I said, I just didn't think the performance was as good as the opener there. It was still a good performance. I think, though, you have to look at I think Dean Lowry has himself firmly after two. I think they got a decision to make between Rubio and Dean Lowry. I think Dean Lowry's playing a lot better than what I thought he would be playing at his age and coming off of injury through two preseason games. Now, obviously he's got the snaps underneath his belt and the type people that he's going against overall. But I think at the very least it's good that we see Lowry pushing Rubio. I still personally have Rubio as the sixth defensive lineman right now, but I think at a minimum, there's some conversations about Lowry versus Rubio.
How should the team decide? What factors decides that final spot?
I think the fact that Rubio is pound for pound and technique better the closer he gets to the center, I think should be the deciding point. And additionally, too, I think Rubio's shown enough that, man, if I needed a 6th or a 7th defensive lineman around the NFL, particularly one that maybe can help clog up in the run in short yardage or goal line type situations, I think you could do a lot worse than a guy like Gabriel Rubio there. I think Lowry is a guy that can do a lot of things. Overall, I don't know if I'm busting my ass as a GM to get Lowry on my 53-man roster. I would potentially look at him as a practice squad guy. So if it's close, or if it's as close as maybe it may or may not be, I think you go with the younger developing player and the one that's better, closer to the center, specifically against the run. I think Lowry still is the better pass rusher of the two, although we're not talking that, we're talking Pro Bowl caliber there. I think hopefully Rubio will develop more as a pass rusher, but I think if it's 1-for-1 and all things being equal, you go with Rubio.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Rubio being younger, a longer term outlook. He's bigger and he's got more position flex. He can play defensive end and nose tackle. Lowry's just a defensive end, and so I think that those factors to me give Rubio the edge over Lowry. You said a nice summer, nice camp, but he is a veteran going against a lot of backups, and it kind of gets reflected in that play. So I would go with Rubio.
I think you can get Lowry to your practice squad.
Yeah, that seems certainly plausible. Who are the pass rushing defensive linemen on this team, Dave?
uh, Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton right now.
Yeah. What was your evaluation of Harmon? There's been some talk on Twitter, some harsh analysis of his performance and just overall where he's at in his second season. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, two preseason games. I mean, come ask me after 4, but I think you would like to see a little bit more out of him than you've seen as far as a pass rusher through these first 2. I think it's fair that look, I haven't found myself wanting to clip any clips out of him of any of the All-22 tape. I'll tell you that when it comes to the pass rush.
In terms of something positive?
Right.
Yeah, there was one good rip move that I thought he had, the quarterback. Maybe on the Klubnik run where he got the edge and bailed out there. I've always talked about Harmon being a better run defender than pass rusher, and the pass rush having more to travel and to get there. And I think that's still true. I know they were talking about fixing a stance. I tried to look at a stance in the opener. I couldn't. Maybe he's a little bit lower in his stance, a little sinking into his stance a little bit more. But I want to look into that more. So I think there's still a lot of meat on that bone. He's got to have to improve upon. But yeah, I think it's a fair question. Kind of with that second wave pass rush. I mentioned this way back in the offseason, Dave. That second wave pass rush, and that's why I did initially pre-camp look at Asazio Tomewa because he's a really good athlete and a good pass rusher. I don't think he's going to make the 53 right now. Maybe practice squad, and so you do wonder. Benton, Hayward are definitely good pass rushers. Harmon looks okay. Needs a improvement there, and then Black's not going to be that guy. Although maybe there's some power there to push the pocket. Rubio, Sebastian Joseph Day. You do kind of wonder where that second wave pass rush will come from.
Sebastian Joseph Day working today. Is there any reports on him today? That's one guy we've yet to see take a preseason snap. Be great to see him hit the field, see if he's healthy enough.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anyone reporting that he dressed, but I don't know how much attention there was on it. But I don't know no new information for you on that, Dave.
All right. Yeah. Look, we'll revisit Harmon. I think after the first three games here.
I think Benton had a good game, getting off of blocks, using his hands well. I was happy with his performance.
He put I think it was a guard. He put him right on the ground. Just I thought he had a good swim move over him, and I thought Benton represented himself well in this game.
Let's talk linebackers, both edges and off ball. Your impressions, Dave?
Sawyer had a good game on the outside overall. We talked going into this game how we wanted to see him make a couple of plays. Thought he had some good run sets within there, good awareness. It seems like he feels a lot more comfortable in that defense right now. We didn't get to see. I mean, obviously, Herbig had a nice rush there on the guard with the cross chop to look. Look, I understand the Watt and his reputation and the bounce back and all like that. And we'll see how much if this team can get Herbig on the field as much as we kind of hope that'll be this chance. There's a good chance Herbig ends up with 13, 14, 15 sacks and winds up maybe edging Watt out by a sack for the team lead this year. I think Herbig is ready to go. Obviously, we haven't seen Watt play yet during the preseason. Just get him there healthy. I think everything will be fine there. Highsmith really hasn't stuck out a lot on tape overall. I'm not too concerned over that. Overall, I think their big three are in good shape overall going into this season. Once again, I think Sawyer's done more than enough making good steps at outside linebacker there. Yeah. What is there other than that though? I mean, the rest of they're only going to keep 4, and the rest, maybe Jamin Davis has done enough to go to the practice squad. Obviously, Welshoff will be on the practice squad, so I think the conversation begins and ends specifically after this Jets game at what Sawyer did.
Sure, I thought he played with heavy hands. He was good against the run, bench pressing tight ends. Thought Highsmith good against the run. He discarded Max Mitchell on 1 rep. Herbig, yeah, interesting. This is not new for them to put Herbig over the ball or A gap, B gap. They were doing that the last 2 years. Just health was preventing some of that, but really good cross chop, and there certainly can be an asset of his speed and burst that can really give some of these guards who are used to dealing with big D tackles some fits there. There were some fun defensive wrinkles in this game from Patrick Graham. That 1-5-5 look with 1 defensive lineman, 5 linebackers, 3 of them edge guys, running some 3-3-5-2, which is 1 inside linebacker, Patrick Queen on the field, Peyton Wilson off the field. So there were some additional wrinkles with that group. Carson Bruner, a good game. Of course, Landon Roberts doing his thing. I know he's a vet and he's going against backups, late into a second half. And so you expect it to look good. But guy had signed 8 days ago, hadn't been in an off-season program.
That guy will play you in a parking lot. He don't
for
care.
Real. Yeah, for real. I mean, go play on gravel. I mean, he'll go out there and do it and play well. So yeah, he's a vet. He's going to make those plays. But for a guy that has not missed all spring, gets signed late in camp and goes out there and just thumps. It's always fun to watch.
I thought overall the inside linebacker group was fairly solid throughout this game. It's great to see Bruner play the way that he did. I'm okay. Roberts was taking all these kids. Roberts probably didn't know a lot of people's names that he was playing with there, especially later on in the game. He was stealing everybody's lunch money throughout this thing. I wanted him out of the game after he made that tackle and after the reception over there in that game. Okay,
on the 4th down.
Yeah. After that, I wanted him out of the game. Okay, you went ahead and made the decision to continue playing him probably because he had the green dot and had to tell all those kids what to do and make sure the conversation stayed at a level there. Okay, if that was your decision with that, I'm fine. I don't need to see any of Landon Roberts in this preseason finale, to be honest with you. Or if you do, get him out of there after 10 snaps and all. I think at this point, I want to see these kids play the preseason. I want to see Bruner log some snaps, Windman get some snaps, and I thought Windman had a pretty decent game. I thought overall, look, this defense for a second consecutive game, we're not talking about missed tackles. They might have had fewer missed tackles in this game than they did in the opener. So I thought tackling was on point, specifically at linebacker. I thought you saw Queen get a tackle for loss there, moving well. I thought Wilson played fairly well overall. They did a good job up front against the run at Sands, maybe that opening drive there overall. But yeah, I thought linebackers outside and inside as a whole pretty much represented himself well in the second preseason game.
Agreed. The run defense was really good in this game. Josh is working on the article now. I just stole a peek at it. Looks like he's got 5 missed tackles, but 3 of them came on special teams. So only 2 missed tackles defensively, at least to what Josh is working on right now. So to your point, you're absolutely correct on that. What is a Landon Roberts' role going to be on this team week 1, Dave?
Man, he might I think in run in kind of run situations, you got to put him out there. That guy still blows up pullers, and he creates havoc within there, and he knows where to be. I think Holcomb. We've seen Holcomb have a decent preseason as well too. It's just I think if you're in run situations, man, you want a guy that can move forward and disrupt things and be in the gap where you need him to be. I think Holcomb is that guy. I mean, not Holcomb. Roberts is that guy.
Sure. The question is then who comes up? I thought Peyton Wilson showed a lot more of that attacking downhill nature in this game that I saw in camp than what he showed in limited action in the opener. But to your point, okay, Roberts comes on. Who comes off?
Yeah, probably going to be Wilson.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how that. There's
This
any
is a
sort of
good.
special
This is a
packages.
good running. I mean, this is a good inside linebacker crew with the 5 right now.
It's a good run defense for the front. I think Pittsburgh better be a top 5 run defense this year. I think all the talent is there to support that. They're not weak run defense anywhere. D line, especially if blacks can play more nose tackle, edge rusher, or inside linebacker, or strong safety. The strong safeties, Jenkins, Elliott, Ramsey, nickel safety can all thump and play the run.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave. Let's go to the secondary, the DBs, the corners, and safeties. Your thoughts?
Good to see Deshaun Elliott back. Let's see. Good strip out by him, obviously, on the one play there. So definitely great to see him back out there. I thought Rayshawn Jenkins represented himself well. I thought the rookie Robert Spears Jennings definitely represented himself well. I think they're going to have quite the conversation of maybe for one roster spot between Rayshawn Jenkins and Robert Spears Jennings. So I thought the safety play in this game was strong. The corners, especially on that opening drive there, you don't like to see, kind of the easy pitches and catches. I thought Danique Slaughter, I thought he's represented himself well in this game. Look, you get into the later part of the game and giving up that touchdown. You hate to see that by who was that?
Deshaun Jameson.
Jameson over on that side there. I thought the tackling was good in the secondary overall, as we just mentioned, throughout the entire defense. I had my eyes on a lot of the safety play throughout the game. So I thought top to bottom, outside of later in the game, and obviously in that 7-for-7 span that Geno Smith had, thought it could have been better there. A lot of easy pitching catches, and then obviously you had the blown assignment there on the touchdown there on that open and drive there. But I was okay overall, top to bottom.
Yeah, both sides. I mean, the offense never warmed up to this game, but the defense didn't. They had to warm up, and that can't be. You want to see faster starts, but I was pleased with the overall performance. The secondary. Garrett Wilson ran a really good route on that first third down, and then Dean got turned around. They're playing quarters on that, so I understand playing the post, and then the receiver cuts out. The guys behind, not too. I thought Devon Boykin had some good reps. I might do a film room on him. I think he's having a good training camp and a good summer preseason action. He's playing safety and slot corner. I think there's something there with him to keep watching. I think that last safety spot, not for the 53, but for the practice squad, of Henderson versus Castro might be an interesting battle to watch in the finale. Spears Jennings, though, I just think all the traits are there. He's got speed. He can hit, close a space. He's a good tackler. He's physical. I mean, he showed that on special teams as a gunner, and then on a breakup underneath throw, driving on the football, breaking up the football. So he's a guy to me that is certainly worthy of making the 53 as one of your best 53. The roster math gets interesting, but I think he's getting to the point where you really want to find a way to get him on your team.
It could come down to Jenkins or him, right?
Well, I put both on my last 53. I think they're going to keep Jenkins. I think they want a veteran, experienced option as some depth, and Jenkins is a hair on fire, tone setter type of a guy. Plays in a similar fashion as Spears Jennings. Spears Jennings more athletic, maybe more range, of course, younger. But my last prediction actually found a way to keep both.
Yeah, and that's because you have Homer going off. We'll save that for. We'll compare and contrast. I will be having Homer on my next 53 man roster. We're already running along as it is here, but I think that'll be a great discussion to have here on maybe the Wednesday show when I release my next roster prediction here. I have Spears Jennings making it over Jenkins. Jenkins hopefully going to the practice squad from there. But we'll have a nice discussion on that coming up here.
All right. Sounds good. Any final thoughts? Any special teams impressions?
Other than the fact that I you look what Danny Crossman rolled out there with the punt unit and the kickoff team gives you a sense that now look, we still don't know what Dalen Everett's, he's going to make the team. So what of the positions that were rolled out there that maybe Dalen Everett would have played impact either a guy like Jenkins or Robert Spears Jennings potential on some of those. So that's up to discussion there. But I think for the most part, man, you saw Bruner out there, you saw Holcomb out there, you saw Nowakowski out there, you obviously saw Homer out there. I think he's tipping his hands pretty good of guys that are going to be kept for some of these Skoranek obviously out there. Oh, who else there? Sawyer out there. I mean, I think we got a good idea of who some of these core special teamers are going to be.
Your special teams leaders from this game, these guys were in double digits. Jamin Davis, Jacoby Windman, Jack Henderson, all with 12. Castro had 11, and Lou Nichols, the running back, had 10. So we talk about special teams value. He's got multi-phase value, just has not worked as that PP the way that Homer has. Nichols was working as right wing with the twos on punt team as one of his unit responsibilities in this game.
All right. Look, I don't think Lou Nichols has done anything to hurt his chances. I think he's just up against math.
Right. No, I understand that. But we'll save that conversation for the Wednesday show. And I know you and Ross touched on it. No snaps from Malik Harrison. Defensively, he had 4 in special teams, had 2 tackles, and probably saved a big run back on that final punt. But I think time's almost up with Malik Harrison.
All right. Yeah, I agree.
All right,
I said that right from the get-go there.
One last piece of news to get to, not regarding the Steelers, but a team the Steelers will play twice this year. The Browns have made a decision on their starting quarterback. It will be Deshaun Watson getting the nod week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Browns fans pretty upset about that. The question will be, will Pittsburgh even see Deshaun Watson this year? They play week 4, they play week 8. Will a change happen by then? Who knows, but Browns fans not happy today.
It makes you wonder how much of this decision came as a part of the Browns playing their first 2 games on the road. Obviously Deshaun Watson came out and that was an interesting press conference to say at least. I'm glad I'm not a Browns fan.
You've been saying that for a long time, but it's also true today.
Yeah. I think look, the Steelers don't play the Browns until what, week 4, right?
Yeah, the Thursday night road game that Pittsburgh seems to be contractually mandated for.
I wouldn't be penciling Deshaun Watson into starting that game just yet.
Yeah, I think Watson's probably happy the first 2 games of the year are on the road. They're in Florida, Jacksonville week 1, Tampa Bay week 2. So when you pay the guy all that kind of money, if you're coming down to a close call between him and Sanders, the guy getting paid all that money probably gets one last look. But it's a mess over there. Todd Monken, is he going to be David Culley?
One and done.
I think he really could be David Culley, a one and done hire where they're going to go get some young hot shot the way that the Texans went from Culley to D'Amico Ryans. That's probably more of an offensive guy for the Browns, but they probably go with Shieldhouse next year, I'm going to guess. But yeah, I think one and done is a real possibility here.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he got that job because he gave them all the right answers that they wanted to hear in the questioning. Probably most of these guys, you kind of wonder if they said, man, we got to get Deshaun Watson out of here. I'm not convinced that Sanders, I think a lot of maybe the answers that Monken gave them were what they wanted him to say because of the quarterback situation there.
Yeah, we'll never know. I don't know why they just didn't promote Jim Schwartz, who was well respected, universally liked, and now they're without him.
Maybe Schwartz would have said, "Look, we need to clean up this quarterback room."
Maybe so. But we'll see what it looks like. Pittsburgh. Browns games are always tough. Going there Thursday, and then they lost to the Browns last year, upset fashion. So no guarantees there in AFC North ball, but that's a decision in Cleveland today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else to get to? We're a little bit long. I don't want to run. We'll have the live stream tonight for questions or whatnot. So I don't want to take any emails there. So I guess we'll wrap up the show by saying, as usual, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. If you want the ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button and follow those directions. Once again, Alex and I will be back together at 7 o'clock Eastern time on Alex's YouTube channel to resume our live stream questions with fans. That'll be a fun hour coming off with two preseason games in underneath the belt at this point. So until then, or until the Wednesday show, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.